Peace world, what's good? It's Wyking live in the building, Africatown Media Studios here at the Black Dot Underground. We're here for another episode, so glad to have you tuned in. Got a very special guest in the house today, a good brother, technologist, technology advocate, entrepreneur, artist, and probably most of all, father,
Yeah.
Jeremiah Walters.
Man, it's a pleasure to be here.
Man,
I appreciate
it's a pleasure to have you here, man. You cover a lot of ground, so I'm glad that, you could come in and we could really get into some issues that's relevant to, our community, our conditions, us as black men, and,
Yes.
kind of our future in this country, in this world, based on some of the things that we've been seeing in the news and just, things that's happening. So, but before we get into that, let's let the world know a little bit about, your journey, where you at right now, and then we'll dig in from there.
Okay. I'm basically a Microsoft cloud engineer. I graduated from Garfield 2004. I moved up here to Seattle from Atlanta in the year 2000. After high school, I did a little bit of college. Then I ended up coming back home, working odd jobs, started a family. And then as recently as 2 or 3 years ago, I decided, I'm going to stop bartending and I want to jump into the technology realm and teach myself how to code and see how I can amplify my message and impact through technology.
Man, that's like you on the path to the future. That's an important thing. One of the things that I didn't say in the intro, I said, brother, Jeremiah Walters,
Yeah.
It sound like you, gonna get on your minister game. But really,
Yeah.
What I'm saying, I should have also said, AKA,
Yeah.
Mega Evers,
Yeah,
what I'm
that's
saying?
true.
So,
Yeah.
you had a movement with the music, here
Yeah.
buzzing for kind of in the past life,
Yeah. Yeah, so for me, I feel like my message has been consistent, but like I always had different mediums. And at one point, music was my conduit of delivering my message of transitioning. And that's one thing. I think you reached out to me back in 2006 when you saw one of my videos about making that transition from the streets to something better for, the betterment of your family or your future and things like that. And, while I still have a love and I'm very enthusiastic about hip hop, I just wanted to amplify my platform and my impact, and I felt like I can do that with technology. And that kind of leads me to where I am now,
Yeah, I think, for me, it's kind of natural, because I look at technology as, being something creative and even for myself, having some, background in the music industry, running around for a while. When I started to like immerse, myself in like the startup kind of scene and like take that in,
Mm-hmm.
the thing that resonated, I felt like it was like the same type of grind,
Yeah.
as far as, when you're on the hip hop, you like constantly, you're in the studio, you're going to shows, you're networking, X, Y, and Z. And then, and you putting in those hours. And the startup thing was kind of like basically the same thing, people just, constantly, working on the product,
Right.
trying to push it to the street,
Right.
et cetera, et cetera. So,
Yeah, the hustle is definitely something that has to be consistent. At the end of the day, whatever industry you're in, it's all about branding yourself. And your brand is your personal promise to your consumers or to people who support you, the people who are, who are rooting for you. So, in music, you got to show up on time, whether it's to the studio, for your artists, deliver, quality, and stand on your truth, most of all. And it's no different from when you jump into the startup realm or if you start your own business or you're in technology like I am, you got to apply that same hustle, apply that same pressure, and kind of just stand on that same truth of like, okay, this is me. When they say my name, I want them to know X, Y, Z. I deliver these things this way every time.
Nah, that's very real. And the idea of being able to transition,
Right.
we have to be, adaptable. And I think that going just more into that, what was like making that transition from the hip hop world
Mm-hmm.
to the tech. What were some of the, challenges? Because we look at the tech industry and we definitely, all the statistics show that regardless of how innovative, creative black folks, black men are, we've created, new genres of everything over and over.
Yeah.
But you look at this tech where the latest like kind of innovation and whatnot is, and you do not see us. You know, it's 1%, you know, 2%, if that, right? Yeah. So how was that, you know, transition going from a space where we're dominate completely to the place where we're not really present?
It's interesting because in the tech industry, a lot of people speak on imposter syndrome, where you're in a space and you just feel like you don't belong there. And that was very relevant, and I felt like it was a new concept to me in that space. So one of the biggest challenges was like, how do I prove myself? How do I you know, show people that I belong here? And for me, you know, recently I realized like imposter syndrome has been prominent in our community from day one. If you think about hip hop and athletics and how we feel like we're supposed to rap or we're supposed to be able to play ball or something like that, there's an imposter syndrome where you don't feel like you belong, and there's also imposter syndrome where you feel like you belong but you don't belong, and you're an imposter and you don't know it. Okay. And so for me, that transition really, I needed to lean on self-awareness. And like with music, my message kind of stood out. I'm like, okay, I know what my lane is. And with technology, it's the same thing. Look, I'm not a nerd. I don't know everything, but I know how to go figure out. As long as I'm in a place where I know what I don't know, I'm in a position to go learn what I need to know. And you got to kind of keep that mentality, because, you know, if you're wavering based on a day or circumstance or situation, you're not going to last in anything. So.
Yeah, that's heavy what you're saying about the imposter syndrome, even where we're overrepresented. So that's like basically, you know, what I hear you saying is that, you know, when we got these certain narratives of what black men do, right? And inside of you, that's not, you know, maybe you do play ball, but is that all you do? Right. Are you an artist, like a visual artist, right? You know, are you into, you know, technology, right? One of the things that, you know, I learned, you know, from interacting with Mix was how much of a Mix-a-Lot, who's one of our, you know, Seattle, you know, legends on the music tip, was how much of a technologist he was, you know what I'm saying? And so, yeah, that's important too, as far as being able to step out of the standard box that they put us in, right? And not being afraid to say, you know what, this is my lane over here, really. Yeah. So, man, that's a great point. You know, as we talk about this technology, and we're in a region, Seattle, which, you know, we're seeing all this change, you know, a lot of money in the city, you know, but our community is really not tapped in like that, right? And a lot of it is due to the gap between us and the technology and those opportunities, whether working or businesses or whatever. They had a stat come out maybe a couple weeks, a few stats of, you know, reports that have come out. One was about the income disparity gap in Seattle, where it had, you know, white families median income at like $105,000 and blacks at like $42,000, right? What are your thoughts on, you know, that dynamic, you know, the causes and maybe the ways out of that? I feel like you kind of represent one, but I want you to speak on that.
I feel like, you know, we have to really reevaluate where we place our value and how we place our value. If we look at Seattle and say most of the people, the white people in Seattle that apply to this statistic, weren't in Seattle 10 years ago. What if they were in Bellevue and Canton, other places before, you know, gentrification, things like that, and that ratio, that difference was smaller, right? Then would our argument change? I think we should empower ourselves by, instead of being reactive to these stats, being proactive, and we looking at our community as, okay, as a unit, like how can we work harder to, you know, raise our income? You know what I mean? So whether or not people come in or not, how can we be better prepared? Because we know it's just us. Like Martin Luther King said, we had to pull ourselves up from our own bootstraps. And they look at us like, oh, we did it, you did it. Things are stacked against us. So when we create those bridges where we're sharing knowledge, when we're like, okay, how come they have this and we don't have this? Like we do here at Africatown. You're like, okay, these are the differences. What's going on? Make some noise. Create some, you know, some real important initiatives to get us these grants and build awareness and technology hubs and things like that. Because one thing I feel like we need to do is empower ourselves. You know what I mean? Like there's the bag there that we can go get, and that's the war. But there are also battles we have within our community with uplifting ourselves, sharing knowledge, giving each other that insight, that we need. You know a lot of things about how things work in the city that I don't know, where I'm just like, man, I need to sit down and just have a conversation with you, and I can have a conversation with whoever about how to navigate the tech industry. I really feel like the stats, they're always going to be, kind of disappointing, but we have to kind of take control of it and say, okay, instead of being reactive, let's be proactive.
I like that. You're saying define value for ourselves first, just like wealth. Define wealth for ourselves. Regardless of what someone else is making, what's our potential? What could we be making? Are we maximizing even just the economic power of whatever dollars we have right now? Right. Exactly. That's a great perspective.
One of my sons get a toy, and the other one gets a Pokemon card. He don't like nothing. He don't even like Pokemon cards, but he got a Pokemon card. Now he's worried. Okay, well, we could have had this Pokemon discussion before you saw that.
Right.
You know what I mean? So we talking money, brother. What's the definition of a bag? Let's get that. We walk outside. They got 10 times the bags. That's fine, but we on our bag mission, and we'll cross the next bridge when we get there.
Nah, I think that's 100. I mean, anytime you're talking about wealth, you got to start with a definition of terms and what's valuable to you.
For sure.
We do have to be cognizant of the fact, though, when you bring, $42, and he got 105, and y'all trying to, get that whatever you're trying to get, you know what I mean?
We don't want no sheet over our eyes. You right. You gotta be aware of that.
It's gonna be hard to bid for that house in the CD when you got, less than half. So, I agree with exactly what you're saying. But we do have to be mindful of what are the implications of that. Sure. You know what I mean? What does that mean for us? That's we talk about supporting black businesses, but if you got 42 cents, for what I mean, that's a little bit less, that you can support that business with. You know what I mean? So these are some realities. There was another article that came out with a report from McKinsey, some research firm that spoke about automation, right? And the fact that black men, in the workforce are going to be the hardest hit, as automation continues to knock out jobs, right? Yeah. And so, again, how do we, wrestle with that?
Man, I really feel like that's a hard one, because automation is like the next best thing. It's going to save all these big wigs top dollars, because they don't have to worry about, certain things that you have to deal with. But ultimately, like I'm a big advocate of like putting yourself in a position where you can provide support, and when those things are threatened, I really feel like it's the best time to come together and figure things out together as one. Like, let's get these guys in a room. If you own a company that's for this initiative, then meet with us. We need to let them know that, like, look, we need to sit at the table. You know what I mean? Like, you need to know you're affecting this community. And I don't feel like it's just on us to kind of get together with ourselves and just make something happen. Nah, we need to bring them to the table. And if they're not willing to kind of meet with us and explain why we should be okay with this, which they wouldn't have an explanation, then we position them in a position where they have to kind of consider these things. A lot of times they overlook us, and it's like, it's not cool, and we gotta make noise.
Yeah, I mean, that's a real thing, man. Is we was brought here, as the technology, to work the land and build the wealth. And then there was some use for us, in the factories, but it seems as these type of projections are saying, we're not as valuable to the economy, going forward as our current, in our current position. Right. So I think, some of that is on us to really understand the projections and really where the world is going and where we want our position to be, and figure out a place to get there. So there's some level up on ourselves. And to that, end, I know you have a passion for, building bridges. I think, and just to that last point, I think you've made a pivot. You've made a transition to position yourself in a place in the economy where you can be, viable for your family going forward. Right. Do you think that's something that, we need to be looking at? And I think the fact that you did it on a non-traditional route, shows,
right.
What's possible. You would think, exactly. I mean, obviously you were thinking ahead. Yeah. You was ahead of the machines, man.
Right, right. Yeah, you're right. And I think that it's important for me at this point to, like I said, to kind of keep that back door open, that side door open, and build those bridges and let people know, like, Nah, you remember me from the neighborhood. You know me by my other name. Yeah. So you know it's possible.
Right.
And I'm here to help you with that if any way possible. I've since being in the industry, there's always been a temptation to be a part of a startup and do my entrepreneurial thing. But like the first thing that comes to me when I think about how I've been blessed and able to move within these spaces is how can I enable the people who are slipping through the cracks. You know what I mean? One of my first nonprofits I started, which I haven't really lifted off, but I got the 501, things like that, was a nonprofit called G Code, where I'm trying to go to juveniles and teach these little G's how to code and give them the skills they need that you can apply with or without a piece of paper. Hey, Judge, this is why I should be on probation. I just made a website saying what I want to do with my life.
Right.
With my code.
Right. So
you know what I mean?
You're on growth and development.
Trying to and go to the places where everybody else won't go. Nobody, they don't want to go juvenile. What?
Yeah.
And
then your story can resonate.
Exactly.
It's not just like you was, in one place and you was in computer science and you was, the valedictorian and then you went to Stanford or UW computer science and now you're in the.
I just, I was bartending one day, serving these.
What about sport? Did you do sports?
I did sports in high school.
So you had, hoop, football, some type of dream, right? Things like, man, that's right, okay. Now the rap dream.
Yeah,
or maybe the street dream.
Just following the,
the program,
right? Following the program, but
but then you was able to be a glitch.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't think I can add as much value or create as much impact if I go talk to a college class right now. You know what I mean? But if I go in those spaces where they're just like almost giving up on themselves about it, hold on, let me show you this is possible.
Right. So, you said you were in the service industry, bartending.
Yep.
And I imagine that's something that a lot of times, that's the story of a struggling, striving artist, right, on their grind, right, trying to get there. And then you was, doing your independent music thing.
Yeah.
And then you made the switch.
Yeah.
Now I'm assuming that, that bag's different. Huh? You know what I mean? Like, when we talk about incentives, one of the reasons why, young people in certain situations, particularly economically, chase the sports and entertainment is because, or the streets is because they see a way out economically.
Right.
And so.
For me, the industry, the food industry, and the music industry, man, it didn't even feel like a bag. It felt like a coin purse. But it was because it's a passion. You know what I mean? Like the starving artist, it was literally, and it wasn't. Even if you heard my music, it wasn't really based off of like this lucrative lifestyle I lived or desired. It was just based on like day-to-day things, and so it was actually art. And being in the service industry, I really like people. I was bartender for 10 years. I never drank alcohol in my life.
Wow.
So, but I was intrigued by this process of how to create wine or spirits and then how to mix them and balance and make these drinks. And then
that's genius to be able to deliver a product without tasting it and whatnot.
Yeah, you get your ROI for real. No overhead. But it was something I like to do because of me, but then when I thought about working smarter instead of harder, instead of doing a double shift, how can I amplify what I do within this shift?
Right.
Where you can only serve so many people.
Right.
There's technology. There's a shiny thing called technology in this wave. Let me see if I can ride it. Let me see if I can apply myself.
Right.
Because I know my values are there. So I don't mind doing X, Y, Z because I know where I'm going to bring it back to.
Right.
And that's something I'll do whether I'm getting paid for it or not. I'm going to bring it back to our family, my community, because that means, that's king.
So you had a nonprofit, the first one being G Code.
Yeah.
You want to really reach young people inside, the what they call correctional or rehabilitation facilities, and really provide a path for them, around the technology. That's positive. What about, startups? Creating jobs. You got any aspirations around?
I do. I feel like with this, if you just look at my story, there's a common theme of he can kind of. It's like a Renaissance man. He can kind of rebrand himself and navigate these spaces. And I want to leverage that skill. And, one of my aspirations is to create a consultant company where I take these people who have these dreams. Most of the time, they're like either minorities or minority women and they just kind of want to do something and they don't know how to do it. I want to help people brand themselves and maximize their impact and their earnings with whatever product they have. I also want to be an investor in different, just like kind of consultants and investing in whatever you're trying to do. But I also want to invest in different companies as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's needed. We have entrepreneurs, but capital is needed. So we need those investors. And a lot of times, when people try to go to, traditional or non-traditional, meaning to a bank or to like venture capital or angel investors, we don't have a big pool in our community, right? And so, man, that's a very important position that you're striving to move to next. As we talk about, some of these things, I mean, a lot of, I think you epitomize in many ways, what we're striving to do, with Africatown, and really the idea around our innovation, coming with this, cultural innovation district is like knowing, building on our assets, the fact that creativity been in our community, entrepreneurial spirit, hustle, grit been in our community. We wouldn't be here if that wasn't in our community.
No doubt.
Innovation, from, music, lifestyle, we made technology, things like a beeper into a lifestyle accessory versus just something that a doctor uses, right? And and the cell phones, So what are your thoughts about, what you've been seeing with, with Africatown, the vision to repurpose the fire station 6 on 23rd and Yesler as an innovation hub where, what you represent, the energy, you yourself, we could have a place where that could really be concentrated and happening on a daily basis, because right now, if we want to go tap in our own community, where can we go?
Right. We work, and then we ain't there.
That's not in our community.
Right,
either.
exactly.
You know what I'm saying? You got to slide out.
So we have our own version now, and I feel like that's amazing. I admire the work Africatown does, because you guys actually step up and make things happen. And you know what I mean? It's just kind of like, for me to see that, it kind of confirms that my energy is validated and needed somewhere, in some form or fashion, right? Like you can have a big long line of people who are there from different colleges and different professions, but I know that my story will be unique and helpful to somebody there. So it's kind of like, if I can come in a space like that and contribute how I can, like, that's important to me, you know what I mean? And so the fact that you guys are putting down the work, laying down the blueprint for this and including the community in it, it's kind of like, okay, this is what we got to do.
Yeah, man. I mean, that's critical. I mean, I feel like our young people should have access to, technology and knowledge and 3D printers and, the same way in camera technology and studios, the same way they got access to a basketball. Yeah. I look at it like, man, we look at Rotary, the Rotary program. I mean, legendary, right on 19th and Spruce, putting out some of the greatest talent in the world. Right. What if we had our, analogous thing in technology, in creative, in fashion, So, there's many lanes. Right. And some might be great in multiple. Yeah. But everyone gets an outlet. I mean, that's kind of the, the vision that if you walk through our community, the CD, Africatown, you stop any young person, they could tell you, like, I'm working on a movie, an app, you know what I'm saying? Some type of invention, and they got something going to channel their brilliance. Yeah,
empowering the youth, man, empowering our people. That's what's going to get us where we need to be.
Man, speaking on empowering, so we want to make sure that people can, get some tools and jewels along the way. What are 3 books, that may have put some light on your path or profoundly affected the way you move?
I'm not reading books about the stuff I do every day and all the tangible stuff, because I'm really I really have a respect for a deeper vibe that, we all have a deeper purpose. So like, I can't contribute nothing if I ain't self-aware of where I am, where I'm trying to be, what I need to work on and things like that. So
knowledge of self, that's the foundation of everything. Yeah. In real time, who are some of your current inspirations or models of, people that you look to, or maybe, watching they footsteps?
Man, my kids. Okay. Literally. Yeah. My kids for sure, because I'm just really big on legacy, man. Yeah. Legacy and making sure that I provide them with what they need. And, you learn a lot, man, from just watching, watching
real.
your seeds.
That's another form of knowledge itself too.
Yeah, exactly. Fountain of youth, man, and
different
knowledge.
Your children specifically,
yeah,
may show you different things about yourself that you just couldn't see without seeing it through them.
Exactly. Nipsey, man, he's passed, but like that, I mean, I've been rocking with him since like 2008, and it was just like one of those things where I was just like, yeah, that's my story too. That keeps me motivated too. And I think about the things I do and how he passed. And like some things we do, we're willing to die on that hill. And I feel like what I'm doing is like, I'm as passionate, like 100%. I'm willing to go to the end to what I'm doing for myself, my family, and my community. Another inspiration, I would say, man, who else? I would say my parents, man. Yeah, my parents. I'm learning a lot more about them. I sit down and ask them more about their story. I learn a lot, man. And I'm just like, man,
that's important. We really need to spend more time understanding our own, journeys through the
elders, man,
elders and ancestors, because sometimes you find out you didn't just choose this path on your own, man. You know what I'm saying? It was already in you.
Right.
And a lot of times now without, those family dinners in the same way and all, there's a lot of disconnection. So a lot of wealth, that's a different type of wealth is not passed on in some of our families and communities as well.
Exactly.
Man, any good podcasts, blogs, YouTube channels, that help keep you on your toes, keep you sharp, man. Keep your blade sharp.
I listen to a blog or a podcast. Well, they have an IG page in the podcast called Earn Your Leisure. Okay. And they have people from different industries just kind of dropping gems about how to like do real estate or how to like, own and operate your business and, whether you're an entrepreneur or whatever. I also like to listen to the Tim Ferriss Show. It's a podcast where he gets people who do ingenious things in different industries and he deconstructs their journey and like what exactly inspired things and how were they able to kind of do what they do. And another one I would say will probably be blog. Let me see. You know what? I think I like to follow the music industry, just like hip hop in general. Yeah. So I'm always like watching Joe Budden podcasts and things like that. Okay. And it just keeps me kind of like that's just something I like to do. Like I'm not all business.
You gotta keep that same energy though in that tech world. That hip hop will have you. That's one thing I noticed too. No matter who's in the building, when a lot of times when you go in these different tech spaces and events, our music is there.
Yeah.
You know, and
we there.
Yeah, and I see a lot of these guys showing up now, Nas and different people on the investing side and a lot of the technology. Yeah. So I definitely think there's a strong intersection and encourage more of our people that, have that aspiration around building their own companies and, whether it's music or fashion or whatever, food that's popping now, to really look at how technology can help make that a real thing. So man, that's our time. It's been a great experience, bro, to have you on, to share some of your journey. I know it's so much more to come. I look forward to seeing that. Again, like I said, you represent what we're striving to see become more normalized in our community.
Yeah, for sure.
You at the front of the pack. Jason Terry and Mar C, Jamal Crawford back in '99. Once they got through, then the gates just started opening up. And so we appreciate you coming through, man. Anything you need to talk to the people? How can the people follow you? Get in touch with you? Connect.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So I'm on Instagram at Afro Technician. Just Afro Technician. I'm on Twitter, the same handle, Afro Technician. Reach out to me. I'm always down to, meet up, do coffee, talk about, career moves or any of this stuff. I'm definitely open to it. So hit me up.
Yes, sir. So that's it. You got it. Another episode. It's a great episode. The message of the day. Tap in, don't tap out. Peace.